In the dimly lit studio of Valutainment's vault, where the air hums with the weight of untold stories, Patrick Bet David leans forward, his eyes locked on the man across from him. It's November 1st, 2025, and the PBD Podcast's 677th episode is no ordinary fireside chat. It's a reckoning. Jordan Goudreau, the battle-hardened former Green Beret whose name became synonymous with one of the most audacious and disastrous covert operations in recent history, sits poised like a coiled spring. The title alone, designed to hurt Trump, hangs over the room like a storm cloud, promising revelations that could rewrite the narrative of a failed coup, a dictator's grip on power, and the shadowy machinations within America's own halls of influence. Over 2 gripping hours, what unfolds is less a linear retelling and more a labyrinthine confession, a tale of ambition, infiltration, and betrayal that blurs the lines between patriot and pawn. The conversation ignites with Goudreau's origin story, a classic American saga laced with the grit of Special Forces lore. A decorated veteran of Afghanistan and Colombia, where he honed his skills protecting pipelines against FARC insurgents, Goudreau founded Silvercorp USA in 2018, a private security firm born from the embers of his military career. "I saw opportunity in chaos," he tells Bet David, his voice steady but edged with the gravel of too many close calls. Venezuela, under Nicolás Maduro's iron-fisted rule, was that chaos incarnate, hyperinflation devouring savings, food shortages sparking riots, and a regime accused of narco-trafficking ties that made it a pariah in Washington. Enter Juan Guaidó, the young opposition leader whom the Trump administration had anointed as Venezuela's interim president in early 2019. Goudreau recounts how, amid the Trump White House's maximum pressure campaign, sanctions biting into PDVSA oil revenues and whispers of military options, a $213 million contract materialized. Signed in secret with Guaidó's inner circle, including advisor J.J. Rendon, it tasked Silvercorp with training an exiled Venezuelan force and executing Operation Gideon, a surgical strike to snatch Maduro, airlift him to the U.S. for trial on drug charges, and install Guaidó in his place. The biblical nod to Gideon's unlikely victory over Midianite hordes? A touch of irony Goudreau couldn't resist. But as Bet David probes deeper, the narrative fractures into something darker, a heist movie gone wrong, scripted by spies and sabotaged by insiders. Goudreau pulls no punches. The plan was meticulous on paper. From camps in Colombia's lawless Guajira region, he trained over 100 Venezuelan defectors, ex-military men hardened by years of deserting Maduro's corrupt ranks. Boats laden with AR-15s, night vision gear, and even a Kindle for morale, a detail that draws a wry chuckle from Bet David, were prepped for a May 3, 2020, beachhead at Macuto, just east of Caracas. The endgame: storm La Carlota Air Base, seize helicopters, and descend on Miraflores Palace like ghosts in the night. Goudreau claims they had intel granular enough to know Maduro's preferred soap brand, Dove, unscented, for the paranoid leader who trusted no one. "We were that close," he insists, his fist clenching the table's edge. Yet, execution day dawned in catastrophe. Venezuelan forces, tipped off weeks in advance, ambushed the lead boat, slaughtering 8 raiders in a hail of gunfire. The second vessel, low on fuel and riddled with informants, stranded survivors on hostile shores. 2 Americans, Goudreau's operatives, former Special Forces soldiers Luke Denman and Airan Berry, were paraded on state TV, confessing under duress to a plot orchestrated by Trump. Denman and Berry drew 20-year sentences. Others, like dissident Juan Guaidó, vanished into Maduro's gulag. Here, the podcast pivots from thriller to tragedy, as Goudreau levels his most explosive charge. The op was designed to hurt Trump. In a voice laced with fury, he accuses a civil war within the U.S. intelligence community of engineering the failure. Drawing on his meetings with Trump officials, figures like John Bolton and Mauricio Claver-Carrón, he paints a picture of rogue CIA elements, allegedly aligned with deep state holdovers, feeding Maduro's regime real-time intel. Why? To embarrass the president amid his 2020 re-election bid, framing him as a warmonger just as COVID gripped the nation. Goudreau alleges leaks started as early as March 2020, when Diosdado Cabello, Maduro's vice enforcer, flaunted Operation Gideon details on his TV show Con El Mazo Dando. An Associated Press expose days before launch sealed the doom, yet Goudreau pressed on, chasing that $212.9 million payout, only $150,000 of which he claims to have seen. Bet David, ever the entrepreneur's ear, interjects with skepticism. You mean the same CIA that toppled Allende is now protecting Maduro? Goudreau nods grimly, citing his own post-op woes, arrest warrants from Caracas, a U.S. indictment for arms violations, and a lawsuit against Rendon for breach of contract that exposed the Guaidó team's frantic disavowals. As the hours tick by, the discussion meanders into broader geopolitical quicksand, Bet David's signature style weaving personal anecdotes with macro musings. Goudreau, now a pariah in exile, reflects on the human toll, families shattered, dreams of liberation drowned in the Caribbean surf. He dismisses the Bay of Piglets moniker, coined by Venezuelan media for its amateur hour vibes, as regime propaganda, insisting Silvercorp's blueprint was sound, betrayed by Washington infighting. Bet David counters with a conservative lens, decrying how the fiasco empowered Maduro, who spun it into a martyr's tale, purging dissent and cozying up to Russia and Iran. They touch on echoes in today's headlines, Trump's renewed Venezuela hawkishness post-2024 victory, with tariffs looming like thunderheads, but Goudreau warns of deeper rot, a fractured U.S. apparatus where hawks and doves sabotage each other, leaving allies like Guaidó, now faded into obscurity, twisting in the wind. What emerges from this narrative tapestry is a podcast episode that's equal parts confession booth and cautionary epic, clocking in at a taut 2:15 runtime that leaves you breathless. Goudreau isn't portrayed as a flawless hero. Bet David gently grills him on the ops' recklessness, like ignoring the AP leak or arming boats with BB guns as backups, but as a man caught in the crossfire of empires. The analysis. It's a masterclass in PBD's unfiltered ethos, raw, unapologetic, and laced with that valuetainment edge, where failure isn't fatal but a lesson in due diligence. Strengths abound. The visceral intimacy of Goudreau's intel drops, like the soap detail, humanizes a plot often reduced to memes, while tying it to Trump-era intrigue feels prescient amid 2025's political churn. Yet, it falters in balance. Goudreau's deep state thesis, while compelling, leans conspiratorial without ironclad proof, echoing the podcast's right-leaning tilt that sometimes prioritizes drama over dissent. No counterpoints from CIA skeptics or Maduro apologists surface, leaving the story one-sided, like a dossier with redacted pages. In the end, as credits roll and the vault lights dim, you're left pondering the ghosts of Gideon. Was it hubris, sabotage, or just the fog of asymmetric war? Goudreau's parting shot, "Freedom's not free, but it's worth the scars," lands like a gut punch, a reminder that in the Game of Thrones south of the border, the real plot twists happen not on Venezuelan beaches, but in the corridors of Langley and D.C. For listeners hungry for the unvarnished underbelly of power, episode 677 isn't just a discussion. It's a dispatch from the front lines of a forever unfinished revolution.